is a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
He's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Oh, we will be talking. Oh, do we have things to talk about? Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast, where we are currently sitting at the 100 and Alex Edler of subscribers. You can also subscribe to the audio shortly after this. We are here, and we have taken the time to collect our thoughts as best as we can after a, depending on your perspective, incredible comeback for the Montreal Canadiens or epic collapse from the Toronto Maple Leafs, as the Montreal Canadiens are advancing to the North Division Final. They start their series Wednesday, tomorrow, against the Winnipeg Jets for Game 1 of the North Division Final, a series that no one really truly predicted. We begin by saying hello to Sean. Sean, hello.
Hello, Kevin. Yeah, it was quite. I'm looking forward to listening to you guys talk, because I think you guys have a couple are going to be a little more. Like I don't want to say emotional for you there, Kevin, but it's a little more animated today over what happened. But we also have some breaking news.
Breaking news.
The Edmonton football team is now being called the Edmonton Elks.
You cowards. You absolute cowards. Not going with escargot. Come on.
Is it plural or is it just elk?
It is the Edmonton
Elks. Yeah.
Elks. It's plural.
Okay. Because I know that they were talking about not having it plural.
I'm joked about the escargot nickname because that's a silly nickname, but I'm not a big fan of the elk nickname either. But that's me. And it does an elk go green and gold? Escargot does. Just saying. Anyway. I'm buying time for you, Devin.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name's Devin, and I'm a Leaf fan.
Hi, Devin.
And
Leafs fan anonymous.
It honestly feels that way. God, I honestly do not know where to start. It is just baffling, unexpected, but expected at the same time. As I told these guys, this is going to be therapy for me, talking this out, and I'm having a hard time collecting my thoughts and understanding how to feel, pissed off, dejected, upset, sad, all everything, and wondering why I am a Leafs fan. I don't know. Okay, so you had the hashtag trade Marner. You're gonna potentially trade a top 5 scorer within this league. That's this year. That just doesn't make much sense to me as of right now. But at the same time, it does, because he hasn't performed in the playoffs. It's been 3 years in a row now where it's been, where have you been? And along with Austin Matthews, where have you been? Austin Matthews, you were the top scorer or you're the top goal scorer in the league. Rock Richard, great. What does that mean? Good personal accolades? Sure. Marner, good personal accolades? Okay. This is a team fucking game. It was a team game. And when you are relied upon the most, you're not there. Oh God, I don't know what to say. I know that I do want to give credit to the Montreal Canadiens.
I that's where I would like. Can we start with the Canadiens? I understand how you're feeling.
Yes,
but
yes.
I do think this is part of my. This is the same with the Winnipeg Jets. The Montreal Canadiens are not getting enough credit for what they did, and I'm not saying that they walked out and completely took over this series from Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7 because they clearly did not, and they had to rely on the great goaltending to Carey Price. Without question, he was probably, I would still say, ultimately, he was the biggest difference. And it's no disrespect to Jack Campbell. It's just that Jack Campbell is not Carey Price. Frederick Anderson wouldn't have been Carey Price either. But another edge was the Canadiens were bigger. They were tougher. Their bottom six played hard minutes. That line of Philip Deneau, Brendan Gallagher, and Jake Evans was exactly what they needed to do. They were 1-for-1. Yes, I mean we people there's no one talking about the officiating, but it's typical that there's no penalties in a very rare amount of penalties in a Game 7. 1-for-1 on the power play. They took advantage of that opportunity last night, and their bottom six and that four monster defense of Weber, Sherratt, Petrie, and Edmondson were just, they were so hard to play against. I just thought an impressive playoff road game performance from the Montreal Canadiens. That to me, along with, and then when it was 2-0, I tweeted this out. I said I didn't think the Leafs. I thought that the game was over then. As soon as it went to 2-0, I was like, Carey Price there's no way this guy is allowing, the way he's playing, that you were going to get more than one goal last night. This was not going to be a comeback. He was just on that. He was on a level. And ultimately, the Canadiens showed up when they had to, and they were bigger, they were tougher, they were more willing to go into the corners than the Leafs were. And they were more willing to play playoff hockey than the Leafs.
Learning how to win in the playoffs is something that I talked about it after Game 6. It's something that doesn't get talked about. Everyone's so focused on just the stats and how learning how to fight through everything is so important. And I don't know what exactly needs to happen with Toronto at this point, but Montreal's players found a way to fight through. Jesperi Kotkaniemi has scored 2 key goals to help them get through. They had Nick Suzuki play hard minutes, and when I remember looking after Game 5, going, Nick Suzuki needs to step up if the Habs have any chance to come back and even have a chance, and he did step up. It comes down to your stars being able to fight through the slog that can be playoff hockey, especially when they're not as big, and that is something that every skilled player is a stage that every skilled player goes through. Some of them figure it out a lot quicker. Some of them take a few years to figure it out. I think the Habs fans also have to thank Carey Price, who is cooler than
like the other side of the pillow.
Yeah, he's just he just pressure doesn't bother him. He's been around. He's won everything but the cup. Like he gets the pressure, and he thrives under it. And I think that's something that some of the top players, Marner and Matthews, in this series, Marner in particular, seem to struggle with. You look at the stats, and in the 7 games, Tyler Toffoli led the Habs in scoring with 5 points. Then you've got Corey Perry, Eric Stahl, Joel Armia, and Nick Suzuki with 4. Kotkaniemi with 3. They finally got a couple assists from their defense last night. You look at the Leafs, and Nylander stepped up. That was some of the best hockey that Nylander's played. And then you've got a combined 2 goals between your top 2 players in Matthews and Marner. Now, I think losing John Tavares in Game 1 was huge, and something that no one's talking about. Losing your captain is tough, especially when they're such a key player in your top 6. Like a second line center in the playoffs is huge. Huge. You need, especially against the teams that are as deep as that can roll 3-4 lines. You can't have just one line and have them go quiet and hope to win. So I think it's going to be. We now get to see a goaltending battle with Hellebuck and Price, 2 of the I would say the 2 most proven goaltenders in the North Division. And both teams are big in Winnipeg and Montreal. It's going to be a very physical and fun series to watch.
Yeah. I think one other person I do think deserves a little bit of credit here is Marc Bergevin. You bring in, look, there was so much talk about the Leafs veterans, and I don't think, I'm just going to start by saying this. I'm not blaming the vets for the loss of this when I say this, but what Bergevin did in bringing in a Tyler Toffoli who won a cup, a Corey Perry who won a cup, an Eric Stahl who won a cup, that experience, I think just helped. Ben Sherratt, bringing in a Ben Sherratt who's been to a conference final, bringing in the experience like that I think was really astute. Getting 2 defensemen at the trade deadline, able to get in Gustafsson to help with the power play, John Merrill for depth. I think Bergevin's not getting enough credit. And also, my God, nobody talked about his suit last night. Come on. That red suit was fantastic. Anyway, but Bergevin isn't getting. I'm not saying that I understand where Habs fans get upset with Marc Bergevin, but he brought in the right guys to play at the right time. And in saying that, I'm not blaming the Leafs vets, but Cup getting the ring, knowing how to get the ring is a huge add if you can get it.
Yeah, well, if it'd be completely opposite though if Bergevin lost this series. I know he didn't, but if the shoe was on the other foot, then I feel like he'd be getting a lot of criticism for the way that he has constructed this lineup.
Yep.
But it does all come down to experience. Just a reminder of the ages of Austin Matthews. So Matthews is 23, Marner is 24, and William Nylander is 25. There's still young players within this league, and they can easily figure it out later on. I know that if the Brendan Shanahans of the world, the Stevie Yzerman of the world, like they didn't win their cup Ovi until later on in their careers because they didn't know how to win. And I think that needs to be a thought as well. For those people who want to trade Nylander or Marner. I mean, if you want to trade Nylander, he's probably going to get your best return. He played outstanding within this series, and definitely could be a good trade bait going forward. But and at a decent cap hit as well. But trading Marner, I don't know if that is the solution. And it might be like what I don't even know what's gonna what needs to happen. I need to sit on this a little bit more to really dissect it and take the emotion out of things and look at it at a different angle. But I'm flip flopping back and forth between Toronto and Montreal. But credit to Brendan Gallagher for showing up. He finally scored a goal within the series. He finally made a difference. And that was one person that they were really missing, and were able to push past him not producing. And you got to expect him to be better and better and better every single game going forward here. Michael in our chat, does the head coach get fired? Does Sheldon Keefe get fired? I don't think so. I think that they like what he's done and how he's just his lineup combinations. I think it is very. It's not really that hard, realistically, when you have that top six within there. But the only mistake that he did was challenge that stupid goal. That was an actual goal, but he wanted to challenge anyways. So I think that was a big turning point in it, but I don't think that he's going to get fired. Did you guys think that Sheldon Keefe is on the hot seat, or Kyle Dubas?
No, I don't think so. I think if they're doing anything, they're going to be tweaking the players a bit more. Going back to the veteran point that Kevin had brought up, I think that I don't think it's that big an issue. Jason Spezza had 5 points this series, same amount as Tyler Toffoli. He's won world championships. He's been to the cup final. Joe Thornton's been to a cup final. Jake Muzzin's won a cups. They have the veteran presence. They have players who have been there, done that. Maybe they haven't won it, but until you've won it, you haven't won it. You can. It's one of those things. You still can learn from those experiences. But in terms of where the Leafs are at, if I'm the owners, if I'm Brendan Shanahan, I don't overreact to this. You were playing six and a half games without your captain in this series. You're playing 1.5 games, the final two, games, half of game 6 and game 7 without your best defensive defenseman in Jake Muzzin. 2 huge losses. I think you have to look at that and say, all right, you have to look at the season as a whole and not overreact with just a one series. Don't overreact to just one series. I think you have you do look at what you can do, because I think you need, with Anderson, he's not coming back. Rittich isn't coming back. I think you do have something in Jack Campbell, but you do need to find someone who can share the load with him. Next season, even if they start on time, is still going to be a bit of a compressed season, because if they go to the Olympics. So you're still going to need at least a 1B, if not a true 50-50 split with Jack Campbell with next season. So you're going to have to find another goaltender. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 skaters who are UFAs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them were sort of key play at the very least good middle of the lineup players for the Leafs this year, if not better. The key one for that in that group is Zach Hyman. They have to make a decision on him. figuring out what if he wants to stay and what number makes sense. And then they've got some young players that are banging at the door looking for more ice time. Rasmus Sandin, Travis Dermott. They've got Nick Robertson coming up. They signed with Amarov. So depending on where he's at next season, they've got the as well as Timothy Liljegren. So I think as long as they're a team that could overreact, but I don't think if I was in charge, I wouldn't. I would be trying to be as patient and methodical as possible. And when you look at who's in charge there with Dubas, who's very analytical, Gilman and others, I think that's likely the way they go. Last night I was saying that I think they might make a big move, and I think they're still going to look at it, but I think it's better off for them to continue on with this. Look at what went wrong and try and continue to build around this core, because even if you want to ship Marner off to wherever because he doesn't show up he hasn't shown up and scored in 18 playoff games, his cap hit is ginormous. His cap hit's almost untradeable, even though how good he is. He's a 10.9, just over 10.9 million. That's a really tough on a long-term deal. That's really tough to move. So I think it's just it's continue on with this and hope that you get the bounces next year, because there were some bounces that didn't quite go the Leafs way, and in hockey that's all that it can take for you to lose.
So they have $12.5 million in cap space projected for next year. Say 4 or 5 of that goes to Zach Hyman, depending if he wants to stay or what the market is at right there. I think he'll want to potentially test the market to see what he can get. That's my prediction. But you can do a lot with that. You really can. You can find some defense potentially. You might be able to come back the other way. I think that Dubas will listen to Marner and Nylander trades. I don't think that I think it's stupid for him not to figure out what the league values those players at. And if you can get a good deal out of it, yeah. But once again, who has the cap space? Who has the assets? It would have to be even money coming back pretty much. And I don't know exactly who they could bring in, obviously, because everybody's talking about Seth Jones potentially, and it's like, well, yeah, he could come in, but how long do you have him for? You have him for 1 more year. It'd have to be a sign-in trade. It would have to be. So I'm with Sean. I don't think that they should make massive changes, but I think you do have to listen to the trade offers that are out there for certain players. I mean, exempting Austin Matthews.
To me, a couple things here. The problem with the Marner trade, one of the problems is I don't know how you make that trade from a Leafs perspective, without possibly having to eat some salary or take a bad contract back. Like that's I don't like in this current age. I don't know how you do it. That's the one problem. And again, look at from the Leafs perspective here, Matthews hit a goalpost last night. It wasn't like Matthews didn't have chances in this series. I don't know how many posts he hit, but I can count. I remember at least a couple in this series that, if puck goes a bit different, we may be having a different conversation right now. To be fair to him. But Marner, I don't think that that's as easy as a trade as everybody is making it out to be. And I've heard, I was listening to some Toronto radio and some Montreal radio, and some of the people are making the comparison with Seth to Kawhi. I don't think it's a fair comparison at all. Kawhi, it's you have to sign Seth Jones. Like you would have to, like, there's no, for what Columbus is going to ask for Seth Jones, and we talked about this in the last podcast. That you have to make sure that you sign. Like, I don't know if Seth Jones guarantees the Toronto Maple Leafs a Stanley Cup. Am I missing something here? But I don't see that.
Well, it's not, nothing's guaranteed.
Of course,
Nothing's guaranteed.
But you got a proven, with Kawhi, it's a proven star, proven playoff performer, guy that has a ring. I just think he was on a bit of a different level than Seth Jones. I don't think it's a fair comparison at all.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's especially in hockey. One player doesn't make a difference. That's what I love about hockey. That's what I love, like, about everything, is you need to have you need to build the team, and it's not as much as great as these analytics are, and how it's fun to dig into them. There's a lot of luck in hockey that needs to be part of your assessment on how it went, and you need to figure out. And I don't think it's as easy as go out and get a Seth Jones and boom, you're a contender, and you're gonna, because it's not like Seth Jones he's played a few series, but he hasn't gone deep into the playoffs either. So you're as good as Seth Jones can be, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are underrating how good Seth Jones is. He doesn't. Is he actually the answer, or is that just an easy big name that fans are wanting right now?
Well, it's an answer, though. I mean, it's not going to guarantee them anything. You look it up in Edmonton. You know, they were guaranteeing them to go to the second round. A lot of people were, and once again, you don't have, like, McDavid and Draisaitl, arguably the top 5 players within this league, within the world, and they still can't get it done. It's a team game, and you know, you even if Seth Jones goes to Edmonton, you know, it doesn't guarantee them anything. It just helps the perimeter and helps the depth within the organization, and it offloads a bunch of ice time that would be allocated to somebody else, which is really good, because you want your top players to be your top players and able to perform on that level that needs to be performed at to be successful within this team. Sorry, John, I don't agree with you. In our chat, he says Kyle Dubas will be fired. Time to rebuild. Time to start over. I don't agree with that. I think that's. I love the emotion. I love the passion that you have there. But overall, I don't think that that's the solution here. There's too many good players on this lineup that need to figure out how to win in the playoffs. And, you know, it's growing pains, right? And that those are going to happen. Are they going to make some tweaks? I think they will. I think they'll explore some trades and explore to see who they can get on free agency. Who can they get from markets that might be overreacting? Because I do think that there will be some markets out that will be overreacting towards this year and the playoffs. And I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just the feeling that I get overall. And I just, once again, I don't think that Toronto's quite there yet. Yes, it's very disappointing 6-7 years here, but, you know, really, really hope that calmer and cooler heads prevail, and they can move forward with this core or whatever they do within the offseason.
The one thing that I do think, just to get to Zach Hyman here for a quick second, because we had this conversation last night about someone that I do think someone will try to overpay for Zach Hyman, but perhaps an advantage for the Leafs is a guy like Philip Deneau is also a UFA, and I do see teams showing a little bit more interest to a Philip Deneau because he's a center over a Zach Hyman and what he can do in terms of a shutdown. Like, if I was to say who would you rather overpay for, probably because Deneau is a center, I could see more teams doing that, which might give the Leafs an advantage to bring back a Hyman.
There's also the Jeep pickup trucks that are in Tampa Bay, both Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman available as UFAs as well.
Yeah.
This is a buyer's market in this offseason with the flat cap and everything. So I think there are options out there for teams to if they can sell the player on the opportunity there. I think there's options there. But I think we know that Zach Hyman's a good fit in Toronto. We know that Zach Hyman is someone who works well with the core that they have. I think it's that he should be their first priority this offseason. It should be to get Zach Hyman signed. Get Zach Hyman signed to a 3-year deal at most, I would say. Him being 29 later on next week. It's going to be they need to find a way to bring him back though, because of the way he plays and how no one else really brings that for them. It's at a consistent basis for their top six.
Yeah.
One person that we have not talked about yet, and I thought he had a great series. Well, not a great series, but he played better than I was expecting him to, and he stepped up when John Tavares went down, was Alex Kerfoot. I thought he played very, very well, and props to him. He came to my mind because when Kevin talked about Danault, I was like, okay, well, what's our third center looking like? And that is Alex Kerfoot right now. Danault would bring a lot more depth for sure, and I think he is a way better player. Well, not way better, but I think he's a better player than Kerfoot is, and he definitely could bring more within this lineup for sure. But yeah, I think overall, you do have to bring Zach Hyman back, and I think that ideally for the team, you sign him to a 3-year deal, but he'll probably want a 4 to a 5-year deal at $3.5 to $4 million, maybe even $4.5 million.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up a tweet our friend, our pal, our buddy, our pal, the smartest one on this podcast, Tyler brought up. I'm just going to pull it up here.
Well, I thought I was the smartest one on the podcast, Kev. That's
No, it's Tyler.
Okay.
No, I am.
Oh. By the way, as I'm doing this, I should say hello to Dyma Ice Hockey. Hello, just joined. So thank you. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends, tell your family. Tyler brought up a point about Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid last night that I thought was really insightful. And there it is. I found it. Here it is. Hang on here as I Ron McLean this.
Pretty soon we'll just call it you're pulling a Kevin. Like realistically.
Let's just call it we're pulling a Kevin.
There you go.
Go there and leave Ron McLean out of this. Because I think that this was quite insightful from Tyler, and I think that this is an important conversation to have here as I pull that down. Is this finally the time the hype machine slows for the likes of McDavid and Matthews? How many times do these guys have to underperform in the playoffs before a realistic judgment on their greatness is exercised? The best players for Edmonton and Toronto didn't get it done. Full stop. Two things with that. I think that there was so much expectation and so much emphasis on the stats of both of these players when we were watching North Division hockey. I mean, if we weren't talking about McDavid getting to 100, we were talking about Matthews getting to 50 goals and how impressive this all was. But that's not how you win championships. You look at these teams right now in the playoffs, and Sean brought up the Jeeps that John Cooper was talking about. All of these teams that are in the second round are Stanley Cup playoff built. They are built for Stanley Cup playoff hockey. Tampa Bay learned that lesson when they lost to Columbus. They started building into a Stanley Cup team. Carolina, Stanley Cup built playoff team for the most part. I still think they may need to tweak a few things. Maybe Boston and the Islanders. That epitome of how you play Stanley Cup playoff hockey. Vegas, yes, they lost 7-1, but they're built as a playoff team, and so is Colorado. So, I guess in terms of like our emphasis, and the question comes down to how our interest in the stats and our interest in like, wow, look at these, like what becomes more important is winning the Stanley Cup or these individual accomplishments?
Well, Kevin, you said it right off the bat. You said these teams, not individual players.
Yeah.
This is a team game. And this is not the NBA where you can rely on LeBron James and whoever he decides to bring in to help him win whatever the NBA equivalent to the Stanley Cup is. I really don't know. It's like Lester B, or I don't even know what it is. It's some name, I'm sure.
NBA championship.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't realize it was that easy. But those things do matter, right? You have to go through the growing pains of losing to figure out where you are as an organization, where you are with certain players. Like in Calgary, you have Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, and this core that has not been able to get it done as well within the playoffs. So the similarities between the two teams of Toronto and Calgary are very, very real, and they are there. They both have different pieces that they need to change, but the whole construct is very similar. So I just think that I agree with you, Kev. You're 100% right. It's not emphasized enough that they need to do something here or have some sort of a shakeup or just let it be. I don't know. Like, and once again, I'm flip flopping. I don't even know. Even talking this out, I have no idea what they should be doing. Be pragmatic, play the long game, or try and make changes so that they can win now or they can change the makeup of this locker room. Because I think there might be something within this locker room as well that could be detrimental to the success of this hockey team. And once again, yes, you didn't have your leader in John Tavares, and that's a massive, massive loss. But still, you have to find a way to win. You got to find it, otherwise you're done.
The one thing I will say, I think if there is a league that is so overrated to win the division or finish in first place, it's the National Hockey League. You don't need to finish first to win the Stanley Cup. You really, like, you look at history back. I mean, the Nashville Predators a couple years ago got to the Stanley Cup final as a 7-8 seed. You had the Kings win a Stanley Cup from an 8 seed. You've had the St. Louis Blues 2 seasons ago went from being a buyer to growing into a Stanley Cup, winning the Stanley Cup, changing coaches to do it. So you don't, like, this whole idea of trying to win and win the division. You don't need to do it. You need to be playing your peak hockey at the right time, and you need to build this team for what usually in normal times is April, but you need to build your team for playoffs. And that's where I think the Leafs, both the Leafs and the Oilers stumbled their way through, as they built a fantastic regular season hockey team, but they did not build a good playoff hockey team.
But I don't fully agree with that there, Kev, because there's so much luck and the way
there is.
The way they have Wayne Simmons. They've got Zach Hyman, Pierre Engvall, Mikheyev, who like they've got the big bodies, Galchenyuk that can handle playoff hockey. Zach Bogosian, Jake Muzzin on the back end. They've got it. It's about just finding. You have to, Devin said, find a way to win. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. And especially when you run into a hot goaltender like Carey Price. The last couple seasons with the Leafs is they've run into hot goaltenders. It's not like their goaltending has been bad. It's just the other teams has had better.
Well, Anderson didn't play and has not played well in the playoffs. And to be fair,
Yeah, but it's just it. What I'm trying to say is it's a little bit of luck, and yeah, you need to find a way to figure out what these top teams are doing, and it's finding that right mix of skill and grit, because it's not as much as Tampa wasn't necessarily a quote unquote gritty team 2 years ago. It's not like they took away their skill; they just added like big physical players to their second, third, fourth lines.
and they paid for it too. Barclay Goodrow got a first rounder. A first for Barclay Goodrow. Like I remember people thinking that they overpaid to get him there, but he's the grittiness that they needed.
You brought in a Patrick Maroon as well.
You did have a Cedric Paquette, and now he's actually on Carolina. So Carolina's looking for that grit too, to help have that good combination of skill and grit for the playoffs.
He is a dirty player too.
Yeah.
Like, what did whose balls did he try like just knock off in that first game of that series? Like, oh, ow, that did not look good.
No.
And then with the Leafs, like again, all this, and then you got the expansion draft to throw in there. Like, I know, Dev, I was going through your pick, like what you've got, who you've got picked for, who the teams are going, who the Leafs are going to protect. I think you're gonna have to change your goaltender because you had them protecting Anderson, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Jack Campbell. And then and then you've got to look at we talked about Alex Kerfoot. Are we talking about future Seattle Kraken Alex Kerfoot? Because I think that's the lesser of all evils for Toronto, because it takes off a long-term contract, opens up a little more cap space for them to work with. B, you're not losing. The way Devin has it, he's got them doing 4 and 4. So he's going to have them protect 4 defensemen, which I think is the right move, because you've got a good core on that blue line that can grow. Even if they decide to go and take Travis Dermott, who Devin left unprotected in his current rendition of things, they still have Rasmus Sandin coming up. So they're going to have to. The Leafs are going to lose either a Travis Dermott or an Alex Kerfoot with this expansion draft, I think, and you're going to have to replace them.
Yeah, you definitely are. Could you switch it over, Jack Campbell, for me? Thanks.
Already did.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, I think with the expansion draft, the Kraken are going to take a longer approach in building not a contender right now, but a contender within the next 3 to 5 years. That makes the most sense to me, and that's what I've heard from my sources, which are very depth and they go pretty high. Let me tell you. But I can
Elliot Friedman.
The Travis Dermott, I think that he probably will be the one that is taken, because he is 24 years old, still an RFA, and he will be a very, very good formidable piece for the Kraken going forward. So I think that overall you just gotta protect the guys you got to protect, and I think that my list is, it's pretty much set. I'll go through it. You protect Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander on the forward. Then you protect Muzzin, Brody, Riley, and Hall with Jack Campbell, and that's the easiest thing that they could do, realistically, unless they want to ask Tavares to waive his no move. But he won't do that. And why would you? So honestly, me going through that was probably the easiest out of all the teams that I did.
The other narrative with this, I think, was the fan bases and I say fan bases because there was two, basically. Well, there was three. You had the Hab fans, which is you won't hear it from national media, but there are Hab fans. That's a breaking news. Breaking news. There are Hab fans in the National Hockey League. You would never know that from Leafs media. There was Leafs. You know where I'm going here. There were Leaf fans, no question. I'm not going to dispute it's the largest fan base in this country. It's not. That's true. But there was also a good section of people that just did not want to cheer for the Leafs. I think it's pretty much Canuck fans were not cheering for the Leafs. There were Flame fans that were not going to cheer for the Leafs. There were Oiler fans that were not going to cheer for the Leafs. I don't know if Jets fans and Sens fans, but it was a lot of us versus them. I think for me, I had this rant last night, and this is not about, to me, Leaf fans, because my experience with Leaf fans are very pleasant, including the one on here. Very pleasant. I've Hot Take Hockey. John's a great guy, Leaf fan. You even, like him or not, I think Steve Dangle is a very reasonable human being, and deserves the success that he's gotten. But I think that one of the things that that got built this frustration, and I do think that this was a narrative I'm not saying that this affected the hockey on the ice, but it was a storyline in the series, is this, how do I put this? Everything is about the Leafs. I go on to our two national sports channels. Every headline is about why the Leafs lost. We need to hear from Jack Campbell is emotional, for the love of God, out of his loss. What's next for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Let's hear from Leaf fans about their loss. It's even on 690. It's even on the 690 page. You go to TSN, they're only promoting, by the way, they do still have radio stations. They're only promoting the Toronto radio station. But it's just this. I think it's such a turnoff for a lot of people. For the non-Leaf side of this, how over-leafed we got. Even last night, all these pictures of all the they found to make sure they got 25 reactions. All the Leaf players, Kyle Dubas, they made sure there was a picture on John Tavares. They made sure there was a picture on Jake Muzzin. I never saw one picture on a Canadian. I never saw one picture on Mark Bergevin last night. And this is an organization, and the thing that really bothers me about this is the Montreal Canadiens have won the most Stanley Cups in National Hockey League history. In professional sports history, they have, if it's not one, it's two. It's between them and the Yankees, as terms of championships that they've won. And they were treated like a minor league, just another Canadian team. And Devin, I'm sorry, that pissed me off. It really did. The Canadians are worth way more than they're given credit for. But good grief, we need to hear about what someone's pajamas were wearing when they joined the Leafs. That I think maybe I'm not taking this out on you, Devin, because it's not. But I think that this is part of the frustration. It was a storyline, the narrative of loving or hating the Leafs, and why that is, I think, is a narrative that I do think is important to bring up.
Kevin,
John was raising his hand, but go ahead, Devin.
I think your assessment is correct. I agree with you. Being a Leafs fan is a double-edged sword. You have people, because I was talking with one of my friends on Instagram last night, and he's an Oilers fan. And the amount of spite that I got because I'm a Leafs fan and he's an Oilers fan. We debated whether or not his entire storyline on the story feed of Instagram was hating the Leafs, and I was like, okay, well, how about the Oilers? It's like, oh no, it doesn't matter. Like I think everybody on this podcast and whoever and our followers know that I am not a typical, quote unquote, typical Leafs fan. I'm very pragmatic. Yes, I get passionate about my team, but who the fuck doesn't?
Yeah,
right?
Not wrong with that.
You know, and that's what I want to spread. I want to spread that type of Leaf fan, not what the media says, because we're a podcast. We're not media. We're unbiased. We try to be, but you have those networks promoting the Leafs so much, and it gets shoved down the people's throats so much. That's why they hate the Leafs. They don't hate the media. Well, they probably they hate the media, but they hate the Leafs because they are number one within this country. They are number one. That is a hockey epicenter of the universe in Toronto. And I can understand to the fullest extent how frustrating that would be if I was a Canadiens fan watching that. And it was all about the Leafs. It's not that like you said, Kev, there's not one photo or visual of the Leafs or of the Canadiens. You know, it was all about the Leafs and how they lost it. And that's what bugs me too. I mean, in the grand scheme of things of the NHL and of hockey and how it should be shared equally, especially when they're promoting, Sportsnet is promoting who's coming out of the North. Is there going to be a Canadian team that's going to make it to the final two, to the Stanley Cup playoffs, to the finals? It's frustrating for me too. So I completely understand it, and I appreciate that take, because that needs to be talked about more, and it should be about how good the Canadians were, and it's not. It's not. You know, and there's that storyline where it's like, well, okay, you know, the more skilled team did not come to play, so we'll focus on that. But you know, congratulations, Habs fans. That must have been a hell of a from their perspective of the entire series, so detrimental at the beginning, and then just started building. And this could be the run. That right there could be the momentum that could just skyrocket the Montreal Canadiens to a cup final. Like, realistically, those are the type of things that players build off of, and having that camaraderie and understanding that even though you're down and out, you're not down and out until that last whistle or buzzer goes. So, God, if I could have that feeling as a Leafs fan for once, that would be fucking nice. That'd be so nice to have that. And that is why this is such a big blow to Leafs fans across the nation and across the world, because that has not happened. So I was grown. I grew up a Leafs fan, and to hate the Habs, I don't hate them. I love the way that they came back. But yeah, to go back to the original point, yeah, the media needs to be better at showing both sides of the story. And it was like Kevin said off the top, very similar to Jets and Oilers. The Jets weren't getting enough credit for what they did. So congratulations to the Montreal Canadiens, honestly.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the easy way to go when you've got two teams in the Oilers and Leafs that were heavily favored going into these series, and then you have them both lose. I mean, it's so easy to focus in on what went wrong as opposed to what the other team did right. And that's just the way society is now these days. It's so easy to point out the negatives and talk about the negatives as opposed to talking about the positives. And both Hellebuyck and Price deserve so much praise and credit for how they played in these series, as well as the teams and the coaches who outcoached Dave. Sheldon Keefe and Dave Tippett got outcoached by Maurice and Ducharme. And I think we need to talk about that as well. Okay, Deb, I asked friend of the show, Graham Moseman, last night, what is worse to go through? The Oilers getting swept, or losing a 3-1 lead and losing in Game 7, that like the Leafs did.
I would rather be swept. I would rather have that than what I went through. Because this gives you fucking hope. Being up 3-1 gives you hope in every single game. You're like, okay, well, we still got a game. We still got 2 games. Still got 3 games to play potentially to get that fucking win. At least you know what your team is to a certain extent with losing 4 straight, being swept. What did Graham say?
Same. He said that he was much happier that they went through, or less angry and sad that they went through the sweep as opposed to going through the collapse. Because I put it the sweep or the collapse.
Yep. Because it's in your grasp. It's right fucking there, and then it's just taken away from being a fan. So yeah, for once you are right, Graham. For once.
Hey, well, you did have this, almost had this, but the Flames in 1994, Jeff Courtnall, Trevor Linden, Pavel Bure, 3 straight wins in overtime. That didn't happen. You had 2. There were 2, but not 3. That's some heartbreak.
Yep.
That's some heartbreak, for sure. But
this offseason is going to be very fun to watch. There's a lot of teams that I think are going to be looking hard and really, really hitting the ground, trying to figure out what they need to do to fix this, fix their teams. Whether it's teams like Vancouver, who felt that they took a step back when they were hoping to take a step forwards, Flames as well, or the Oilers and Leafs, who made the playoffs, but disappointment there. Pittsburgh, Washington. I think, and then you throw in the expansion draft. The expansion draft is that fun monkey wrench that's going to really, I think it's going to create a lot more moves than we would normally see. Even if teams are going to be, even if we had the same amount of teams and everything without the expansion draft, I think teams would be a little more patient. But I think with everything going on with the expansion draft, another player that Toronto may lose in the expansion draft would be Ilya Mikheyev. That would be a fantastic pickup for Seattle as well. He's got 1 more year left at a very reasonable 1.645 cap hit, and he's a player that you would want to have on your team to build a bit of an identity.
And he's only 26.
And he's younger. Well, not necessarily younger, but he's not old in NHL terms. But you have to. I think it will. I think that expansion draft is going to create opportunities and movement, because we are going to see teams learn from the Vegas expansion draft. I think we are going to see teams trade amongst themselves to try and get assets back for players that they may not be able to protect. That's something that I hope the Canucks are able to capitalize on. And then you're going to see, as well as it'll be part of a good excuse for teams to try and shake things up.
I think that's a good point, Sean. I just as teams trying to help other teams with the expansion draft, because, like I said, Ron Francis isn't going to give any handouts. He's going to throw anvils to people, and he's going to mark up the price like crazy. And why wouldn't you? You have every single team pretty much by the cojones, and it's whether or not you want to be helpful. Oh, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. He might do that with 1 or 2 teams, maybe. But overall, you got to expect him to be throwing anvils at people to make them sink and drown. Simple as that. So I like that thought that Sean brought up, the fact that, you know what, other teams might help other teams, even though they might be in the same conference or same division. That might be a very, very good possibility.
So to explain what we're doing, because I think we do need to explain that for people that are new or don't know. We as a podcast are doing our mock expansion protected and unprotected list. We have 5 or 6 teams each that we will do a protection and unprotection. I have the Flames, Capitals, Sharks, Senators, and Panthers. And am I missing someone?
Flames, Sharks, Sabres, Sens, Caps, and Stars.
Oh, the Sabres. Oh, I forgot about them.
So did everyone else.
Yeah. So Devin has the Leafs, and who else does he have?
Oh, God. Yeah, Sean, you have the list.
Devin has the Leafs, the Coyotes, the Kings, the Hurricanes, the Blue Jackets, and the Jets. So what we're doing, we'll all do our protection lists, and then what we'll do is we'll put together a Seattle team from that, and we'll do a special episode talking about that as well. And I think that should be fun, because it's looking at some, like, I've got Devin's got his lists up, and I'm looking at Carolina specifically, and the debate on what they do is just very, very crazy, like interesting, because they're so deep on the blue line, but they're also deep on forwards. Do they go, was it 7-3, or did they go 4-4? Because they've got some really good defensemen, and no matter what they do, they're going to lose a good defenseman.
Then, just so everybody else knows, that date of this expansion draft is July 21st.
So I have time to get my list in. So
you do, yeah.
I've done none of it. Be very productive. Was the student here though. Anyway, yes. Let's do a quick. We'll talk about this maybe tomorrow, as well as we're doing as we have the live lottery stream that we will be doing tomorrow. But let's kind of get a quick sense. We kind of touched on it. It's the Montreal Canadiens, Winnipeg Jets. Big hockey. It's going to be playoff hockey. We know that there's going to be fans in Montreal. I wonder if, I don't know if they can do it. I think it's going to be tough for Winnipeg to do it if they can pull fans not fans, but first responders in the stands, a la what they did in Toronto. Well, maybe not. I don't know. But this will not be a boring series. There's a lot of skill in this series, a lot of toughness in this series. These two teams played each other really tight all year. I think this is a long. I don't know who I have winning yet, but I do have this as a 6 or 7 game series. I know that.
I've got the Jets. I think it's just, you look at. I just like their forward group a little bit more. I think they've been through the wars. They know what it takes. I don't think people realize how good Nick Ehlers is, and yeah, he came back off of a bit of a significant injury and played really well, and now he's gotten all this rest. So if he's not 100%, he's damn close now. If their top 6 is rolling, I don't think it's actually close. I think I think they're going to be able to control this series.
Yeah, I have the Jets in 7, and I think that overall, yeah, just the depth that they have, it's really hard to handicap. But I mean, would I be surprised if Montreal does, do the quote unquote upset? No, I wouldn't be. Carey Price, if he's playing at the level that he is, which is elite right now. He'll steal a couple games, and it's on the opposite end. You have the reigning Vezina winner of Hellebuck, and you can't count him out either. Both goalies are fantastic, and they could both of them easily steal games for their teams without question. So it is tight, but I do have the Jets' depth, and especially it's more so their third line that I think will be the biggest threat with Kopp, Appleton, and Lowry. Oh man, you talk about for the longest time you talked about the best fourth line in hockey, which was on the Islanders. You had Kazik. Oh my God, I want to.
He scored the winning overtime. He scored the overtime winning goal last night in the game that nobody watched.
Yep.
Nobody in Canada watched anyway.
You have Matt Martin on there, and then you have who's that last guy? Anybody? Bueller. You're on mute, Sean.
Cal Clutterbuck.
Mr. Clusterfuck. Love it. They're kind of the Jets' third line is very similar to that and can make a massive difference. And like Kev said, Kazikas with overtime winner, fantastic. So I just think that depth is just going to roll through. Like Paul Maurice could just easily roll his lines, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I haven't decided yet. I'll leave. I'll tell you tomorrow. How's that? Give myself some more time. By the way, but just for Sean, did you have the Jets beating the Leafs?
Did I have the Jets beating the Leafs?
If the Jets or the Leafs were playing, who would you have had?
I think I would have had the Leafs, but I think it's just the Leafs match up better against the Jets.
I would have had the Jets, but the one thing that's also leaving me a question is this what this series did for the Montreal Canadiens in terms of confidence. That's why I'm not sure I'm necessarily picking the Jets yet. That's why I want to think about it a little bit more. A couple of other things that happened that I wanted to make sure that we touched on. Ryan Reeves did get suspended 2 games, which in regular season is 4 games for his knee on Ryan Graves. I think that this, for me, I would have liked to have seen it more, but this is pretty typical for what the NHL does. So I think it's in the consistent wheel of punishment that the NHL provides. This is about as consistent as you're going to get at. So I'm not super outraged by this. I am glad he did get suspended at least.
I was hoping for about 4 games, honestly. But the NHL, if you look at its especially under George Paris, these post-whistle scrum incidences don't necessarily get the big suspensions that some people are wanting, as opposed to the very dangerous and high-speed hits, which is why Kadri got as many games as he did. What Reeves did and the whole lead up to it, I think, made it feel a lot worse than it was. And that's why people were asking for 5+. Some people were asking for 10+ games. But they don't, under this administration, under this Department of Player Safety group led by George Paris, they do not suspend post-whistle scrum incidents like this very, very too harshly. I think 2 games is pretty harsh, especially in the playoffs. But it's I think it will be. He's gonna have them watching him like a hawk going forwards. That hit that Ryan Graves made was borderline. It was borderline late. We've seen hits like that get suspended in the past. I'm going to go way back to 2011 when Aaron Rome got the book thrown at him for a hit that was probably about the same same lateness. But under this administration, I didn't think they would, because I think it is those borderline interference penalties. 2 minutes was right. 2 minutes was the correct call on that.
Yeah, to the Rome. Who did Rome hit? because whoever
Nathan
he
Horton.
hit, where's Nathan Horton now? Right?
Yeah.
That player was injured on the play, so I think that definitely has something to do with it as well. I never really. I think there's a majority of us out there who don't really know what to expect from player safety. They're consistent, but their inconsistencies are very blatant. And as far as like the Kadri hit goes, that makes sense to me. History of that type of play, especially in the playoffs. So when it comes down to Reeves, yeah, sure, suspend him. They're gonna be watching everybody like a hawk, no matter what. So just unfortunate that it is in the playoffs that it's happened, because he is a big part of that team for Vegas, and that is a big loss. Evander Kane came out and said that he, instead of suspending him, have him play for 20 minutes a night as your punishment, if you will. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Those two don't like each other.
No. Nope. One of the best rivals in the NHL.
But the other thing is, what do we love about how we talked about through the past few years, the lack of quote unquote hate in hockey games and these rivalries. We got that now in that series.
Yeah, that's gonna be nasty.
It's gonna be nasty. It's gonna be fast. It's gonna be skilled. It's gonna be a great series to watch.
I don't think it's going as long as people think, but Vegas
is coming back, Kev. You're completely.
No, I had this before the 7-1.
Vegas.
I had this before the 7. Devin, back me up. I said.
Oh no, I heard. I still think you're shitting on Vegas in terms of how good they are and their ability to come back.
Well, they're not going to make this a series. I'm with you. I don't think they'll be able to make this series, even with putting Marc-Andre Fleury in. Like it's not going to. The amount of what have we been talking about this entire time is depth. Colorado has depth. They have that top end talent, and then they have depth. And Vegas, they have depth, but like the top end talent isn't quite there, right? And Nathan McKinnon, he's a beast, absolute beast. Rantanen, he can light it up whenever he wants. Talk about depth. They have Donskoy there too, and he's played amazing this year. Grubauer, he's a great goaltender, and you have that depth on defense too. On paper, it's without a doubt Colorado.
I'm not crapping on Vegas as much as I'm just so impressed with Colorado right now. Just the way that they are playing right now, it's gonna be so tough to beat them.
All it takes is one game where the Vegas top end players show up and Colorado doesn't, and we're back at square one. It's one game. One game does not make it serious, and even if it is a 7-1 win, I think it's a lot closer than you guys are giving it out to be. I still think Colorado pulls it out, but I do think that Vegas has the skill, has the depth, has the goaltending to be able to make this a series.
They can, but I don't think they will.
Fair. The other thing is we're starting to get the finalists for NHL awards, and Vezina, it was announced today, Marc-Andre Fleury and Philip Grubauer, 2 goaltenders in this series, and Andrei Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning are the finalists. First of all, were there any snubs?
UC Saros.
Okay.
The consistency wasn't quite there for UC. Like it wasn't. He played amazing when he had to, but I just think that it was Grubauer, Fleury, and
Vasilevsky.
I mean, Fleury was unreal. Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky. And Grubauer, I guess you could have the argument whether or not Saros and Grubauer could be interchanged, but yeah, overall, I don't think they really missed any other goaltenders.
When you look at the 5-on-5 save percentage of UC Saros, it compared to the rest of them, Out of goaltenders who played over 1,200 minutes, he was a 945, Vasilevsky 933, Fleury 929, and then Grubauer, where is he? Was 921. And then you look at the metric of goals saved above average. Saros was over 24, and the next best was Varlamov at 16. Like, it's their stats, and you still need to watch and see how they played. The other thing is, you look at those three teams that those goalies were behind. Compare that to Nashville. It's not. You can't. You've got three of the better teams in the league, and then Nashville, who barely made it into the playoffs, and made it in based off of UC Saros's game. I think I think all three are worthy of it. I just think Saros should have been in that top three.
So then you're taking Grubauer out, or who are you taking out?
Grubauer.
Okay.
Yeah, I have Fleury winning this for the record. I think he's gonna. I think he'll get that.
Yep.
Grubauer good. Vasilevsky, I think. I don't want to say underrated, but maybe not as much appreciated as some other goaltenders. But he's good as well. So, but that's that. It's good. We're starting to see that. We'll start to see the awards coming out. So we'll be talking about those as we go forward. Anything else we need to talk about?
We saw last year with Markstrom with getting a lot of. He didn't get the nominee, but I think he was fourth in voting last year for the Vezina. And now we got Grubauer, who's also a UFA coming up this year. That's good for Grubauer.
No.
And then sounds like the Canucks are getting close to making it official with Sedin's coming into the fold as part of their hockey ops, as well as there was rumors that they might be adding another coach here soon. So hopefully they do that, as well as make sure that Ian Clark comes back, because sounds like the guy that our goaltending guru Kevin Woodley says that he feels confident that they could make a deal as opposed to a week or 2 weeks ago where he wasn't. So hopefully that gets done.
Yep.
And then I saw a tweet that Daryl Sutter has put together a timeline for the Flames players to start working out in the off season. So we'll see what happens with that.
With you saying that, you don't agree with that?
I think if they need that, that's telling. That's telling a lot in terms of if Daryl thinks that they need to be a little more monitored with their off-season workouts. I think that's a little telling in terms of how he feels the team's work ethic and conditioning is.
I understand. Sorry, go ahead, Kev. Go for it.
I think it was telling that he started when he got in, he started the bag skate right away. I noted that there was. I think he saw, whether it's true or not, he absolutely saw it. From his perspective, from his eyes, he saw a conditioning issue. That I think is true.
I also think, though, that that's his style. That's Daryl Sutter. If you're not going to work your ass off, you're not going to be playing. And within working your ass off, you got to make sure that your conditioning is there. And I'm not saying that, it definitely could be the fact that he does see an issue within that organization, in that locker room, that there isn't enough conditioning within that. But I just think that's Daryl Sutter doing Daryl Sutter things.
Well, they were definitely better defensively down the stretch. They were better with puck possession down the stretch. And I mean, you can take the argument that it was meaningless hockey or not, but they did seem to be starting to play Daryl Sutter hockey as the season went on. So
Well, and
Oh,
you saw
maybe
that with Gaudreau, that top line, Gaudreau, Lindholm, and Kachuk. They started rolling a little bit, and typical that it doesn't happen when it actually matters. But it does take time to get into a new rhythm with the coach and get them to understand to get Daryl Sutter to get the players to understand what he's looking for them. And yeah, Johnny, surprisingly enough, stepped up, and that's where all the questions come about. Okay, well, are they going to trade Johnny Gaudreau? Does Daryl Sutter think that he could be a fit here? And it's it gives me anxiety because oh man, yeah. We'll get into the offseason a little bit more when we have a chance to. But yeah, I just think that that's Daryl Sutter doing Daryl Sutter things, letting them know, hey, whether or not he does see the proper conditioning or not. This is what he expects out of every single team, no matter what team he's coaching.
Yeah. And to close out,
we've got the tankathon. Since we got the lottery tomorrow, let's see what happens when we hit the sim lottery button. Hey!
Sean had that taped. He had it taped.
I did not.
There's no way. There's absolutely no way. And Tyler is probably loving this, by the way. Tyler absolutely fucking hates the tankathon and doing the lottery. Oh, man, it's awesome. But yeah, that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow. We will be live on air for that. And then game 1 tomorrow, Montreal and Winnipeg, North Division. I just want to say no Saturday game for this series. No Hockey Night in Canada game for Montreal, Winnipeg.
That's a miss.
Really? Wow, interesting. Okay, I maybe they're not in Canada. Maybe there's something new. I don't know. Anyway, how do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm at Gordhouse09, and I want to thank you, everybody, for letting me vent. I feel a lot better talking about it, at the end of this podcast than at the very beginning. And thank you, James. I'm always especially smart, but I'm glad you noticed this time.
I am KEVOLE. Let's do this right. Tyler TNOBLE. Schneid's. Chris is Schneid's. SCHNEIDZ. I am KEVOLE. Podcast_hockey. Facebook.com The Hockey Podcast. YouTube.com The Hockey Podcast. We welcome all new subscribers. Please join us. And, of course, subscribe to wherever you get your audio. And we will be back tomorrow. Draft lottery. Where does everybody go? That's the question. And thanks, everyone. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.